Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now. I have traveled all around this house and to other places as well. One place I have not been to yet is Australia, and I know we have quite a few viewers from Australia, and it's nice to have you. And in our ongoing series of top things to do in various locations from around the world, we've got a top 10 things to do in Sydney, Australia, submitted by Nathaniel Slater. And this list, by the way, when I print it out, it's like 3 pages worth of emails. I'm not going to read everything, but there will be a corresponding blog post for his notes at chris.pirillo.com. So, again, if you live somewhere on this planet and we have not covered your city, if you have things to do in your city, feel free to submit them, because geeks do travel every so often, and when we go to a place, sometimes we want to know what we can do there, what we should do there, according to you, the rest of the community. So here is the starter descriptions from Nathaniel Slater, top 10 for Sydney, Australia. Number 10, Mrs. Macquarie's, I may have said the last name wrong, chair and point. The only problem with Mrs. Macquarie's chair is its popularity. Beware the tourist bus. If you're riding on one, sit at the front and get off first. Best bet is to arrive early morning or late afternoon. If you want to avoid having the ugly Blues Point Tower appearing in the background of your photographs, move south along the point at the right angle, and it will be suitable or suitably obscured. So there we go, a chair and point. So apparently there's a famous chair in Sydney. I don't know if it's in this photo or not. Number 9, Sydney Royal Botanical Gardens. The Royal Botanic Gardens in Sydney is a beautiful park on the foreshore, the most beautiful Sydney Harbour in the world. It makes a couple suggestions on what you could do there, including going to a cafe. Number 8, Palm Whale Bilgoa Beaches. 35K trip or so up to Palm Beach will make you feel at home whilst you are away, if you're like your Aussie soaps, that is. An hour or so drive from the airport. Palm Beach was my first stop and should be yours if you love beautiful beaches. And he, again, goes on to describe more that you can do at these beaches. Number 7, open-air cinemas and moonlight cinema. Oh, the open-air cinema is another must. It's close to Mrs. Macquarie's chair in the Royal Botanic Gardens. It is the most expensive, hardest to get into, and the most must-do of a number of outdoor cinemas in Sydney. With a drink in hand, big screen with the Sydney city skyline, Sydney Opera House, and Sydney Harbour Bridge as a backdrop, it's hard to beat. If the movie is getting dull, just watch the fruit bats fly off to feed or admire Sydney at its best at night. Sadly, the open-air cinema is only open during the summer. And since it's summer up here, it's not summer down there right now. Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere. I remember, was that math class? Number 6, the Sydney Harbour Bridge climb. Easier than it first appears at the gradient leading to the top of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. It's not that steep. Negatives are the cost, the long period of prep, and the training before you go. No cameras. They'll sell you photos. And it can also get a little sweaty in their fashion gray suits. Worth it? Absolutely. It's an experience and a half, a must-do, particularly if you like being chained to something. Number 5, North Head, Manly. I don't know if that's a city name or suggestion on gender specificity here. North Head, not far from Manly, oh, it must be a city, will provide you with a stupendous view of Sydney Harbour. If it's wet or windy, you might want to postpone this for another day. Too far to walk from Manly. Either drive, cab, or bus it. So there's a vantage point for you. Number 4, walk from Manly Ferry Terminal to the Shelley Beach. Manly feels more like a seaside town rather than a part of the largest city in Australia. The ocean side is east of the Manly Ferry Terminal, Manly Wharf. Just cross the road and walk at the length of Manly Corso. Stop and wonder at just what Manly Council was. I just love that name, Manly. I wonder, we'll call it Manly! It's probably some big dude named Paul who named that town. Oh, apparently there's this steaming pile of sculpture, that's his words, not mine, just outside the ferry terminal. Pubs, cafes, and shops etc. He's got a few other things. Oh, and there's a chance of there along that walk, there's a chance of seeing a manly penguin. Number 3, catch a Sydney ferry from Circular Quay and travel around the harbors. The ferry ride to Darling Harbor from Circular Quay lasts approximately 10 minutes, taking you under the Sydney Harbor Bridge as you head out of Sydney Cove. The brief trip brings with it more opportunities to add to your collection of Sydney Harbor Bridge and Sydney Opera House photographs. Mentions a couple other things that you can do there, including more about the Darling Harbor, which must be adorable, honestly. Number 2, the Sydney Harbor Cruise. If you prefer to sit through an organized cruise of Sydney Harbor, then there are a few to choose from. You'll find most of the common tour operators, Captain Hook Cruises, Matilda, and Sydney Harbor Cruise operate from jetty number 6 on the west side of Circular Quay. He said most of these vessels are quite comfortable, too. I'd imagine, especially with beer in hand. There. Number 1, he says, drum roll please, Southern Coast Drive. Starting off in the the Sutherlandshire, take the whole day to drive down the southern coast to Nowra. And you have to pardon, I've got an American accent. I'm not even going to attempt any other accent. Stopping off towns and beaches like Bald Hill, Stanwell Tops and Stanwell Park, Wollongong, Primby, Kiama, Gerringong, Shoalhaven Heads. Stopping at Coolangatta Estate for some wine tasting and lunch, then after heading back to the highway to head back to Sydney. There you go, my top 10 for Sydney. Hope you enjoy. See you later, Nathaniel. So Nathaniel, thank you so much. If anybody else is from Sydney or any other city in Australia or any place from around the world, feel free to leave a comment about Sydney for this particular video. But you could also submit your own top things to do in your city, no matter where you're from, because we all want to know more about who else is out there watching these videos or connected to me in some capacity. And please, if it's a wacky city name, give me a pronunciation key. I just appreciate that. Except for Manly. Wonder how many women live there. Where are you from? Manly. My email address where you can submit those lists, chris@pirillo.com. Of course, we have geeks from all around the world at geeks.pirillo.com. And then, of course, this chat room. It's a part of the live video feed, so you can be a part of the streaming pile of experience. There's approximately, there's a little over 500 people watching right now, 550 or so. It's pretty good, I'd say, for a very hot, at least here in Seattle, a very hot Thursday afternoon. Is it? I think it's cooler in Hawaii than it is here right now. It's kind of sad. No matter. If you'd like to join us for a little bit of tech talk, you're more than welcome to join us. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right here at live.pirillo.com. We'll see you later.